Oh, you have no idea how relieved I am.
You know, you never know what Instagram is going to do, right?
You don't, do you? I mean, there was one day I sort of like talked to one person to test it, and it was fine. A short time afterwards, the other person who I was going to do the chat with tried to join in, and nothing.
Yeah.
So everybody, this is Daniel. So I am very interested in what you've got planned, but we'll come to that. But you are used in scams and you get contacted.
I am, unfortunately. And first of all, let me say I love what you're doing. I don't think that you guys get enough praise. And so every time I come, I love to support you guys. And I know you have this big team under you, Ruth, that is, you know, you're vigilant. You're vigilantes in some degree. You're like the technology vigilantes. And, you know, this is something that is near and dear to my heart. And I think each passing day I get a little bit more passionate about it. My photos have been used probably dating back to about 18 months ago. And, you know, at first as a victim whose photos are used, you kind of are a little bit flattered. You're like, oh, that's funny that, you know, that's nice that someone thinks that I'm attractive. But then when people start losing money, which I had a woman from Indonesia somehow find me, she on Instagram, and she had drained her entire life savings to a scammer that was using my photos. Then it became an issue. And I've done, you know, the latter part of, you know, since that time, really trying to educate myself, trying to understand how the scams work, where they're coming from, who are the people that fight these organizations like yourself and many others, and really just hoping that I can just, you know, you were in a live not too long ago and you said, if I can just, you know, prevent one scam, it's worth it. I feel the same way.
You've got to do it. I mean, scamming is so big. It is so enormous. And that was something that shocked me, I think, well, you know, over the years. When we, you know, the amount of people we've got coming to us and the geographical spread of what we have coming to us. So you've got to cut it up, really. You've got to do what you can in small amounts. And if you can do something there, maybe you can help, you know, in another way. And it's just massive. I wish I knew how to stop people sending money. If they want to flirt or whatever, fine. But it's the money, Daniel, that I can't get over. That the amount of money that is lost and sent.
You know, Ruth, just today I got a message in Facebook from a woman that was in a romantic relationship with a scammer using my photos. She later discovered that it was a scam, and now she's building a relationship with the scammer. And is giving him money. She says she's giving money directly to his college for his education. Whether or not that's true, I just, you know, I think we need to recognize that a lot of the victims, and I have a lot of empathy for the victims, as do you, I know you do, but a lot of the victims are in a state where there's depression involved. There's some sort of trauma that's occurred, whether it's a divorce, a death of a spouse. They're in a very low and lonely place, and they're very vulnerable. And when you get caught up into this emotional relationship with these scammers, and these scammers, they're writing things down, everything about your life, they're writing down so that they can bring it up to acknowledge, I know you, I understand you, how are your kids? They'll know your kids' names, because they know that that's weaving in this emotional connection, which then leads to a romantic connection. And then you don't even think twice about helping someone that you love, right?
The control is there. I mean, it's control. First thing in the morning, hello dear, hope you slept well. And then last thing at night, dream of me and all of this. But, you know, once they get the foot in, once they get the control, that's it. And we have, we follow some of the Yahoo Boy groups. They think me and Sophie's. They think me and Sophie's Yahoo Boy scamming as dying old women. We don't put them right, we just stay there. But they will say to each other, make sure your client falls in love with you, because if she falls in love with you, they don't ask questions and they're more likely to pay. And what I wish we could get over to people was the confession at the end, and I've fallen in love with you, I can't scam you anymore, I've fallen in love with you, is as much a part of the scam as the scam.
It is. It is.
And it's like it. The ladies quite like it because they'll say to us, "Oh, but I video chat with him." So you can see who it is. He's still taking money off you.
Yeah.
Still nice.
And he's still talking to probably 10 or 20 other men or women trying to scam them as well. Yeah, I don't think that we can validate that, even if they come out and confess that they're all of a sudden healthy human beings. And I think the problem is where a lot of these people come from is that it's glorified to be a scammer. I mean, it's a profession. And, you know, I actually was talking to someone today. You had a really good point in another live where you said, don't really engage with them. Don't play around with them. And I agree. And I try not to tip off the scammers that reach out to me as far as how I found them, because I don't want them to get better, but I do try to engage with them to learn something. And, you know, as you know, this is a glorified profession. For someone that's making $2 a day, if they can even do that in Nigeria or Ghana or anywhere on the west coast of Africa, to be able to see these other men or women, their ages, that are driving nice cars, have nice clothes, it's something that's glamorized that they want to do. And so it's not something, there's no guilt, there's no remorse, there's no, a conscience doesn't fall into it, because this is something where these people are elevated and lifted up in their countries.
And you know, they can go out to clubs and they can throw the money around, which sometimes they do literally. But of course, then people flock to them because they're, as I say, the celebrities. And they buy some of the most ridiculous stuff with women, with money that we know that people have lost tens or hundreds of thousands. And we can, you know, I can see them in a sort of like fancy handbag, because Nigerian men carry handbags, and I've never worked that one out yet. But what I always want to try and get over is what is a scammer and what's going on at the other end. Because if you've got somebody that's been involved with your pictures, they can find out that they haven't been talking to you, they've been talking to a scammer. A scammer is an anonymous entity that anything in their head, but they keep your pictures in their head.
Yeah.
So it's great being a scammer. It's the perfect crime. You know, they just spend the money. They never get blamed for it and never get arrested for it. The victim, right, you've got nothing to do with it. You were just sat there, you know, and you can't do anything about it. That's I think this is what really I found difficult, that you can't actually do anything about it.
No, you can't. Particularly if it's across international lines. You know, the only cases that I see in the United States where scammers are arrested are scammers that are in the United States. And I would say 75% of them, if you look at the articles, are of African descent. So it's someone from Nigeria, Ghana, who's moved to the United States and is scamming, more than likely as part of their gang or the organized crime that is based in West Africa. They just have better technology, have more access. They can set up a PO box. You know, there's lots of things that they can do more. They're actually physically in the United States, so their IP address is, you know, is there.
But when they confess to the woman, they'll still be, it's so bad here. We're just doing this to put food on the table. We're just doing this to pay our school fees. They can be sat in the middle of New York in a high-rise, but, you know, they still have the same script. We actually had one very rare, one of our victims contacted me today, and she sent me a letter that she got, and her scammer is from Ghana. He is in the United States, and he's waiting to go to court in October. So he's going to get quite a good sentence, which is lovely. Which, you know, it might just be one, but I don't care. I'll take it.
Yeah.
But
I had an interesting thing I wanted to share with you and your audience about, I found, and I know you've looked at some playbooks, but I found a playbook that's currently on the website. It's a website with a playbook of how to do multiple things. And one of the things that I've always been curious how they find my photos, because there's so many, and I realized that in many cases someone's selling the photos. So they're grabbing all my photos and selling them. But this user guide, what was interesting about this one page was that it told the scammers how to find the potential victims. And here's where a couple things that kind of were eye-opening. Number one is hashtags. And so, and let me back up. If you don't have a business, you don't need a public account on Instagram and Facebook. If you don't have a cause, a business, a service, you really need to be private, because what happens is women will post a quote and put a hashtag, and these scammers are finding these hashtags and they're connecting with as many of these women or men and starting the conversations. So be careful with the hashtags, the motivational hashtags, if you're using them, because I think how they're finding me is the divorced dad hashtag, which I use all the time. And the second one thing that they do, but this is important, is they're looking at big, huge Instagram accounts and who follows them.
yes.
And they listed the accounts: Tamron Hall, a lot of Christian pastors, motivational speakers. And so if someone in your audience is following, Billy Graham's son, I can't remember his name, a pastor that has an Instagram account, these scammers are going into these accounts and looking at all of his followers and starting to follow anyone that looks like a woman or man that looks like a potential target. So it was I didn't know how they found people, but it makes a lot of sense.
They do it a lot on Facebook, and one thing that I hate is that the religion that they use as part of the scam. I think that's low. I think it's bad. I had a conversation with somebody that was using Hauser, the cello player, this afternoon, and he said to me that I'm sorry, will you forgive me? I said no, but you have to forgive me. I've said sorry. Jesus forgives everybody. I says, well, Jesus is a better man than I am, because I'm not going to forgive you, and he was, that was terrible. It was me fault, not him. And it's they're going. There was one, and I can't remember the page, but there was one page, and it's put the plug in the jug, or keep the plug in the jug, or something crazy. It's got millions upon millions of followers on Facebook, but they put it on sort of, if you think the Lord woke you up this morning, and so people just put amen.
Right.
But you can see them. You can see them going down. You can see the fake accounts going down, and it's ridiculous. They are. It's like they've got this captive world just in front of them on a screen. They can go anywhere.
And be anyone that they want to, right? They can be anyone, go anywhere. And, for them, people have to realize it's a numbers game. There are a lot of people that will sniff these people out. 95 out of 100 people may say, this isn't real. It's the 5. And so for them, it's about how many messages can I get out? How many people can I reach out to? Because I'm just looking for that 5 out of 100 that are going to be susceptible, that I can get into the relationship and eventually steal money from.
We know that they scam around about 80 to 100 at a time. So each team have an ongoing scam with that many people at a time, and they're picking them up. But you can imagine the amount of money going in. There was a very good Australian program, and they did a sting, and they picked the scammer up, and they looked at his phone, and he had 83 live chats, on his WhatsApp, and he was scamming every single one of those 83, except the top one, and she was the one that helped to set up the sting. But it's massive, and people don't realize how massive it is.
Right.
You know,
And I mean, there's 8-year-olds that are part of this. People need to realize the level, the ages of the kids that are participating in this in these countries, because they need manpower. To your point, they have to get out to more people. And so you're in many cases, you could be talking to an 8-year-old, you know, and so you've got this young generation that are growing up in these very impoverished communities. Their families are hardly making ends meet, and they see this because it's glorified as a way that they can make money and look, you know, and fit into that lifestyle. And so it's not going away. And if you look at all of the dating apps in particular, and the projected growth of the dating apps over the next 5 years, which there's lots of studies, it's going to grow another 20%. So you're going to see 20% of users get on there. The scammers are only going to increase because the population is increasing.
That page, that the groups that I showed you, the Yahoo Boys update one, on that one, they used to say, I want 10 boys to train. Now they said, the one that I really hate, or BB, who's one of the worst dresser ones, he's now saying, I want 50. So instead of taking 10 and bringing them on, he's taking 50 at a time and bringing them on. And today, the Hauser one, the first Hauser, he wasn't getting anywhere. And I was doing other things. I wasn't really even paying attention to him. And he went away for a while. And then the other person come back, and it was, do you realize how beautiful you are? And I thought, I'm boy too. I've got somebody else to come in and try, and he got about as far, which was no far at all. But it's annoying I wish we could reach people right at the beginning. People will Google a cough. People will sort of go, oh, I'm going to have a look on Google. I think I've got lung cancer. And they get this person in who loves them in 3 days, who's getting them, you know, into a chat app, and they don't think anything about it. And then very shortly after, the money comes in, they are so invested that they just send.
Yeah.
We've had three very nasty suicides this year, and one at the end of last year. And that is the ultimate, you know.
Really? There's so much shame and embarrassment that's involved in it. I think that's why a lot of men don't report, because I would argue that men probably are scammed just as much as women, but they don't report it because it's an ego thing. And I really think that, you know, the numbers that are reported worldwide, it's probably double as far as what's truly being scammed. It's the people that aren't reporting it because they're embarrassed to, right?
We reckon about 10% gets reported, and the rest is hidden. One of our suicides was a man, and
Yeah.
family had no idea until they got his phone afterwards, and they'd taken money off him and changed the deeds on his house to their name and everything, and he didn't see it. You know, he didn't know this was coming. He thought it was all a genuine relationship, and all he could do was take his own life. And I can't even bear thinking about the last minutes of that man's life, that he had to do this, and the devastation he left behind. But ultimately, he was murdered by those scammers. There's no two ways to put it.
The blood's on their hands for sure.
It is.
Yeah.
You talk about you gonna set something up where people can report or something?
Well, I think that, yes, I've got a lot of ideas of ways that I can fight. I mean, first and foremost, I'm just trying to create awareness as my platform grows, just to let people know about it. And it's not just about letting people know that there's other pictures of me out there, but just, you know, how to find them. I'm trying to, you know, I'm part of the Kathy Waters and the advocacy group that she has, which I love. They're passionate like you guys. And we're trying to do some things at the legislative level, you know, trying to talk with people that, you know, can actually create laws to create better, you know, where it really needs to be nipped. There's a couple of places that we could at least make a dent. It's never going to go away. I think as far as just better security, creating a safer consumer experience on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the dating apps. That's going to have to be regulated. They're not going to do it unless laws are regulated in which it forces them to do it.
They were so far ahead with this. And I think the last time I talked to Kathy, well, not last time, before this, we'd done a list of however many we could of sort of the military use, because she was putting it into Congress and COVID hit. Right. And it
just stalled it.
Absolutely. It just could not have been at a worse time, because everything just went, everything was only COVID.
Yeah. And I think another place, there's a lot of organizations that's nonprofit and for-profit that support senior adults, which that's the most susceptible group. Now, younger people are getting scammed, more and more are, but the prime target is for, 50s, 60s, 70s. In many cases, they're lonely and single. Many cases, married people are scammed because they're getting in relationships online. And so we're wanting to create dialogue with, like, there's, the AARP here in the United States is a 38 million membership community for senior adults. And they do a fair job in educating on their website, but they can do more.
Yes.
We can get out letters and pamphlets and more podcasts and do more to educate, when an event occurs. You have to think about, like, when the event occurs, when a divorce occurs, when a death of a spouse occurs, what is the critical point when you need to be educating those people? Hey, you need to be on the lookout when you're starting to think about a romantic connection again, so it's more of like, how do you catch them there? Because too often there's no education. They don't even know to think about these things. And then it's too late. They've been victimized.
I like to get to the point where, you come onto Facebook or Instagram, you get something and you have a look at it, and it's a man's picture and it's, the usual greeting, and you think, oh, that's one of those scammers, and just get rid of it. That's where we need to be, so that people don't start. People do not start with it. And we've been looking at quite a few things in the US where they are beginning to classify it as elder fraud, which is good. There was a couple of prosecutions, and it was using the elder fraud sort of words, which is great.
Yeah. And you know what? Like the AARP is an example. I hate to pick on them because they do some good things, but it's a $39 million membership community, which I know can lobby Congress. They have some political clout because it's a large constituency, and, try to get a group like that on board to start working Washington, D.C. And there's other organizations like that throughout the other countries. Then the politicians will hear. When it's just, Kathy in a 3-person organization trying to go create awareness, it's not going to be as effective if it's a 800-pound gorilla pounding on the table saying, we got to fix this.
Yeah. And I mean, from the very first, when Kathy first started that petition, she knew exactly what she wanted to do. Her and Brian knew exactly what they wanted to do, and they were focused and they went towards it. And I really do think it would have been a lot better. It was Adam Kitzinger or something. I really think they would have gone somewhere with that. And it was just, I couldn't believe it. Something like that hit to stop it. But there is so much more potential for awareness. Now, we've got something coming out over the weekend, and I have to say I hadn't heard of them. And it's the Daily Beast.
Yes, I've heard of it, yes.
Well, we've got something coming out in there over the weekend.
Oh, great.
So,
well, and, for my audience, if someone is passionate about this, maybe they've been scammed. I've seen so many messages in here of men and women that said, I've been scammed. What can they do to help fight the fight? Because I know a lot of them, they follow you, they follow other accounts because certainly they've been part of this, they've been victimized. What can they do to help this crusade?
If everybody could contact, if they know an organization, if they've got a local news media, outlet. You know, I've been on the news. I'm sat here in the northeast of England. I've been on the news in Boston and Wisconsin. Wisconsin, I didn't even know where it was. I've heard of it, but
Yeah.
I couldn't have pointed it out on the map to you. Boston, I knew where it was. They've got a hockey team. But, you know, if only people can just contact somebody. If it's a local organisation, we can speak to them. There's always somebody. We've got plenty of ladies in the US who would, you know, talk with local people there. Just a little thing on a news program. You know, as I say, we've done these where local people have been used in scams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've even been on a documentary in the Philippines. I mean, you know, technology is wonderful. We can appear anywhere now.
Yeah.
Every single bit of that gets to just a few people, and then those few people tell a few more. You know, we need the word. The only way that this is going to do anything is awareness, because
That's right.
They are not going to get arrested over there. There's plenty of people who say, oh, look, the EFCC, somebody's been in court. They've got 2 years imprisonment. You read down to the bottom of the news report, and they've got 2 years in prison or a $300 fine. The scammers, they've got $300 in the mattress.
Yeah.
You know, so they're not doing anything.
You're right. It's awareness. And, you know, I would encourage people. I love what someone said, word of mouth. You know, particularly in the United States, any city that you live in, there's divorce care and widowed care. You can Google it. Divorce care in Boston, widow care. These are support groups that are created, many church driven, many non-church driven, and just reaching out to those groups and saying, look, you are a vulnerable target. You're the group that comes in there. That needs to be part of your programming to help educate people on romance scamming and how that occurs. So it's a lot of it is, you know, I'm trying to figure out where to nip it in the bud, because part of it is, you know, getting more air time, you know, but I think another part of it is trying to find where those type of people that, what they're watching, what they're involved in, and trying to create awareness at that level as well.
If we can just, people might not have heard of it. That doesn't matter, because they might not have heard of it, but when they are told, they then have heard of it. So it might not even mean anything to them. But when they get a contact through Facebook, Instagram. Now, we had a lady, lovely lady, lost a lot of money the other week, and her scammer had got her through bingo. She used a bingo game. And he had started a chat on there, then they'd gone to WhatsApp, and the rest is history. And so how many people of these groups that you are talking about will be on Words with Friends, will be on Scrabble, will be on bingo?
My mom is widowed. She's 82. And every time I go over to her house, she's on Words with Friends. Every time.
Yeah. It's not Words with Strangers, it's Words with Friends.
Right. And I've educated her, and that's part, you know, that's part of the community that you've built, and you know, your community understands and is learning about scammers, and so you've got to educate your friends. Yeah. You don't have to tell them your personal story. I've seen a lot of people say I don't want to, and that's fine, but tell your friends.
Yeah, we always say you've heard about it, or you know, I've seen something, or I've read something I've seen on the internet about this scam business. Have you heard about it? You don't need to say it to you. That doesn't matter, because who it is that's been the scam victim is not important. It is the anatomy of the scam. It's how the scam is, and to pass that on to somebody else, you don't need to confess who you are. You know, you don't need to confess what happened to you if you don't want to. Maybe down the line they might think that they want to. One thing that I was very encouraged about was with this Daily Beast thing. I went into our group and asked if there was anybody who would speak to a journalist. Now, in the past, you know, it would be blank underneath. There would be lots of little likes, and that's it. I had them queuing up to talk to this woman, and that is a big advance, very big advance, because
stories sell. Stories always sell, and I think the more people that are willing, and you know what, I think we're moving in the right direction, Ruth. It's no longer this negative stigma if someone's been a victim. I mean, in the United States alone, if you look at the FTC numbers, I think it was like, this is reported, 290,000 Americans were scammed. 290,000. So you're not this lone person on an island. There's a lot of people that are experiencing this. And so I think you're right. The more people that are brave and willing to tell their story, I think the more that's going to resonate with people and catch people's attentions for sure. I mean, there was a woman on one of the shows here in the United States she worked for I think the CIA. She was like, and she was scammed for almost $1 million.
We've got to get rid of the "it'll never happen to me." I've sat and watched it. I've sat and watched Catfish, or whatever it's called, and if they pan over to the audience, you can see them saying, "Oh, that would never happen to me," and it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
I had a Chicago doctor, and it just happened to, and not only that, she thought she'd been bewitched, witch doctor into paying the money, and she just kept saying, "I don't know how I could have done this," and it doesn't matter. You know, you can't beat yourself up. It's happened, it's done. We don't always ask people how much they've lost when they come to us, because, you know, it's not our business. We just know they've lost money. Some people want to tell us, so we don't ask, but if they want to tell us, we write it down. We're on well over 20 million in lost, and that's just to our little site. And that's not everybody, that's just a few. It's probably 20% that we know about. And that to me is horrendous, because that money's gone somewhere and it's been spent.
Yeah, in a wasteful manner. They're not stealing money to support their family. Let's be aware of that. It's not to feed mom and the siblings. It's out to have this lifestyle, to be like the big scammers and what they're driving and the clothes that they're wearing. We have to be aware of that. And
there's Michelle. Michelle's got a page as well. She's at 790,000. She does the same as we do. And it's just, you know, this money is going there and it's being wasted. And one scammer was on our page, and he was trying to persuade us to understand why they do it. And so he said, well, do you know, there are children starving in the streets. There are children begging for food in the streets. So I said, okay, how much have you given them? On the money that you actually scam, how much have you given to these children in the streets? What difference have you made to the poverty that you're telling me about? And there was none. He just went very, very silent. And, you know, I've been to Africa. I've been to Ethiopia, which is where East Africa, not West Africa. I don't think I could go to. I've been to Ethiopia, done work there for 4 years. So I've been there. I've seen the poverty. I've talked to the people. I've still got people in Ethiopia that I talk to. And the poverty is awful. They wouldn't scam. They're quite proud people. So when Nigerians tell me about the poverty there, I keep thinking, yeah, but you can't ruin somebody else's life because of what you've got. Make the best of your life. If they would actually put as much effort into Nigeria as they do into organizing this scam business, how good could Nigeria be? Oh, yeah. You're right. And or if we even a 10% of the money that was stolen was used, you know, people are giving people, and I guarantee the money that was lost, a lot of that money was meant for giving. Yeah. Think about the organizations, the nonprofit organizations and the good causes that are losing out on money because it was stolen, and the victim no longer has that money to give. And so it's really there's so much of a
of a wave effect that affects so many things. It's not just the victim, but it's their family and it's organizations. I mean, it carries a long way.
And it goes on a long time. Very often it goes on for the rest of the person's life. And I go back to our suicides. We had two lovely girls from Burma of all places, and they came to us, and they'd been involved in a Bitcoin scam. Invest in crypto and this, and it was sold to them that basically, if they got this money together and invested in this crypto, they would never be poor again. They're not worldly wise over there. They don't know.
Right.
And, they'd borrowed a lot of money because this website was telling them that, they'd invested it. And I spoke to the two girls, and the next week I only spoke to one because the other one had taken her own life. She could not face it. She borrowed money thinking that she was going to get it back in a couple of weeks. And in her mind, she was going to pay everybody back with interest. And she couldn't. So she killed herself.
Yeah.
And, there's an awful lot I can't forgive them for. But yeah.
And a lot of the playbooks that I've read, the one I read over the weekend or this past week, the scammers playbook, that they encourage the new scammers to focus on their country first. They said, doing a foreign country like the United States, it's hard. You've got to learn the tricks. You've got to learn the language. Focus on Nigeria first. Once you focus on scamming Nigerians, and then we'll move you up to, the big leagues. And so we can't just think that it's not fair to assume that it's only the wealthy, privileged countries that are the targets. They're targeting everyone, even people in their own countries.
If you're breathing and you're human, you are a target.
Right.
It is literally, because, okay, some people can't afford a lot of money, but they can be money mules. That's invaluable if they can get somebody to take in the money and pass it on. People, especially in Asian countries, they're used to borrowing money off each other. So they do. Scam boy doesn't care that they can't pay it back. He's got his money. He's going to buy his bottle of brandy with it. And yes, so I'm very aware that it's very difficult to point out where it's coming from. Because, of course, immediately you're racist. Now, I don't care whether these people are black or yellow with pink spots. They are scammers. And they are ruining lives. I don't care who they are. And we will.
I almost wish we stopped calling them scammers and calling them criminals for what they are. They're criminals. You're talking to a criminal. You're not talking to a scammer. I feel like it dumbs it down. It makes it almost seem like, oh, well, that's just some crazy scheme. No, it's not. That's a criminal that you're talking to. And that's why I think it's important, and you say this, not to play around with them. You don't understand on the other end. You could be dealing with someone that's a significantly an expert in hacking. And particularly if they have your cell phone number. Now they've got all your personal data. I mean, I had a scammer that threatened my life. He knew my girlfriend's names. He knew the names of my kids. He knew where I lived. And so, and some of that stuff is out there in the public domain. And that's the consequence of having a public account too. But you just don't know who you're dealing with. You can't just assume it's some 14-year-old kid in a internet cafe on his phone. There could be a high level of sophistication. If you get someone mad enough, they're going to keep coming.
Yeah, and if you get that 14-year-old mad enough, he will go to somebody who is a good hacker, and they will get into your phone. And I can't even say how many times we've said to people, they are good hackers, or they're not going to get into my phone. And then they come back and they've got into their phone, they've got into their bank, they've got into everything. They've got into their Facebook account, and the username and password on the Facebook account is what they use for everything else they've got. So they've got into everything.
Yeah.
And people won't listen. They all know better. They won't listen. And one day they're going to have to, But yeah, so we just keep going, Daniel. We just keep going. All of us, we just keep going. But if everybody could just try and, you know, the information, try and give it to somebody else, and then it goes like that, you know?
Yeah, I think that I think we would both admit we're probably never going to win the war. I think the war is something that's going to happen for,
Yes.
I think a century from now, there's some scamming that's going to occur. So it's all about winning battles, and each person that we're able to take down, each person that we're able to identify as a scammer, each person that we're able to educate and maybe prevent a scam, we're winning a battle. And so I'm all about, I want to just keep winning the battles, you know?
Absolutely. Because, you know, all those battles come together, and then you have a very big one, and then, as I said, people tell each other. You're going back to saying about the word scammer. I don't like it at all. But at least it's descriptive. The word catfish really winds me up.
I don't think that's even a true representation. I think of catfish as someone that is on a dating app and they're using younger photos of themselves to look better.
Yeah.
That's not a scammer. A scammer is someone that's stealing photos.
Cybercrime. It's
right. It's identity theft. They're using someone else's photos to perpetuate a false identity with the intention of stealing money.
Have you heard of business email compromise?
No, I haven't.
Oh, we'll talk about that one day.
Okay. I mean, every day, Ruth, I uncover something new that I haven't learned about. I mean, it's just, this playbook was so eye-opening, just in terms of tactics and strategies. And now it's like, now I got ways that I can educate people, you know. And so you and I, we're just sponges. Every day we're learning something new, a different tactic, a different approach, maybe a different resource that is fighting the fight that we didn't know about. And that's the fun part of it to me.
Business email compromise, BEC, it's massive. It's huge. It nets more money than romance fraud. It comes from the same place, but it tends to be big. They could, you know, go into a real estate company and say, you know, can you redirect the money that you're going to send me, you know, for the mortgage of the house or settlement on the house? We've changed our bank account. Can you send it? Last week we had a really good catch on there, and they managed to catch a scammer had got away with $437,000, and between the bank and the FBI, they actually got it back.
Wow!
So it was, you know, snatched out of the hands of the scammers. The reason I mention it is because it's very closely connected with romance fraud, because BEC needs a lot of bank accounts to work, and it needs a lot of people to make bank accounts, because they can steal money, that's fine, but they've got to have somewhere to keep. They can't put it into the one in Nigeria. They've got mules to take it out and put it in the Bitcoin wallet. So it's very, very closely related, because they get so much trust in the relationship that they can get people's bank accounts, they can get people to make bank accounts, and it's just so, you know, it's too easy.
It's so disheartening, because I love meeting new people. I've met so many great people, even through technology, and I'm a trusting person, as I think a lot of people are. But we've gotten to a point with social media that we need to keep ourselves private, and we can't really engage with people we don't know. I mean, the best advice, and I've seen it a couple times, is don't engage on Instagram with people that you don't know. When they're sending you messages and trying to warm you up, you can't trust that anymore. You can't give them the benefit of the doubt. It's more than likely, you know, someone that's out for something, right?
And, you know, social media was started off to bring people together, and it's just the opposite. It has to be just the opposite. The last live chat I did, one of our admins, they, you know, work the door for us, sort of thing. They watch who's coming in and block the ones we don't want. The last live chat I did was somebody being me. The first one that came on and joined was being me. They tend to play with me. 2 or 3 a week, and we can get rid of them. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it is so serious, and nobody knows how serious it is, and many people who do know don't take it seriously enough. So we've just got to get more information out. We just got to keep plugging out there until we do, and
Right.
share information.
Share, absolutely share, and support the organizations like yourself. I mean, I wish you would take some money to help. You know, if you ever get to a point where you need money to help with your fight, you need to let your community know, because I think that people would be generous to help support you. But there's other organizations like that that you can support, whether financially, whether in person, sharing the information. We can all do our part, I think.
I like the way that there are other organizations out there who do, you know, who people can come to them and say, am I talking, you know, who am I talking to? Can you find out for me? And they'll charge them $300 to find out. They'll charge $300 to find out. And, you know, we do that for people. And I like that. I'm proud of that. Very, very proud.
Well, you got, I love your organization. I love your whole team, Ruth, and I love your heart. I really do. I'm so glad that I got to know you and love, as you know, I support you as much as I can and want to continue to do that.
They're an absolute great group, and you know, anything that goes wrong, you know, if we get victims, everybody takes it so sort of personally, and it's awful, you know. So thank you, Daniel. Thank you for this. You can do it, and you know, we'll just keep going. We
find the fight, right?
Yeah. While they're out there, we're out here. So, you know, what can we do? So we will talk again, Daniel, and thank you very much for your very sweet words.
Have a blessed weekend. Thanks, Ruth.
Thank you, Daniel. Bye, everybody.